Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of YO2A Arsenal Roundup News. I am your host, Richard Espinoza. We are your primary Second Amendment source where we keep you informed on important Second Amendment legislation, whether if it will benefit your Second Amendment rights or will cause harm to your Second Amendment rights, whether if it's good or bad or ugly. We report it to you, whether it be here in the great state of Wyoming and every part of the United States. We keep you informed. Well, today has been an extremely busy day for the Second Amendment. And for those of you who tuned into John Crump's recent episode, he was analyzing the Hush Bill, and Trump, which will try to put an end to adding tax and restrictions on suppressors. Suppressors, what they basically do is protect your hearing. They cause no harm, no foul. But for whatever reason why the ATF has put these ridiculous restrictions and these ridiculous fees on this bill, and it's been that way for a very long time. So hopefully both the Congress and the House will correct the wrongs of the past that the ATF has done. And I also encourage you to tune into Guns and Gadgets. Jarrett, who's the host of Guns and Gadgets, keeps everybody informed on important legislation that we need to know about in order to be informed and to be part of the fight and the process so that we can keep our elected officials in line and let them know you violate our Second Amendment rights, you'll be out of a job. Well, today this now relates to what I'll be talking about next. Some bills that will be up for debate in the state of Maine. And so for those of you who are from the state of Maine, please listen up because I do have some important bills that I do want to inform you on. So tomorrow on May 7th, which is for Wednesday, you'll have an opportunity to call your legislators in the state of Maine to tell them either to support or don't support on these upcoming bills that are coming up. So what I will be doing right now is read these bills to you so you can get an idea on what is going on. So here are the bills that are up. And it says the Maine Joint Judiciary Committee is meeting tomorrow, which is May 7th, for a work session on a long list of gun-related bills. These bills may be voted on, so it's urgent that we reach out to the Judiciary Committee and let them know they need to defend our Second Amendment rights. Tell them to reject the following bills immediately by voting on a not pass in tomorrow's meeting, which is May 7th. LD 67 SP 292 expands the definition of a machine gun and makes it a crime to own a rapid-fire device, which the bill defines as a device, part, or a combination of parts that increase the rate of fire of a semi-automatic firearm beyond the standard rate of fire. This ban especially refers to binary triggers, trigger cranks, force reset triggers, and bump stocks. Then we go to LD 1120 HP 739, a safe storage bill that criminalizes not keeping your firearms locked up at all times. Gun grabbers have no right to tell you what you can or cannot do with your legally owned firearms on your own property, and that is true. They have no right to do that. That is why we have private property rights, and it's none of the gun control nuts business on what we do with our property. Then we go to LD 1299 SP 529, a second safe storage bill that pertains to keeping firearms in vehicles. As far as I'm concerned, your vehicle is your personal property. You can put your gun in a glove compartment or a console or whatever you feel you want to. As long as you take responsibility, it's none of their business on how they secure their firearm in their own vehicle. And we'll get to the next bill, which is LD 1126 HP 745, requires serial numbers on all firearms and prohibiting undetachable firearms. Under this bill, knowledgeably possessing a firearm frame or receiver that is not imprinted with serial number by the FFL would be a crime. As far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't have to have a serial number unless they choose to. And besides, most lower receivers that you do purchase, because I built an AR-15 before, they always have serial numbers anyways. But regardless, the gun grabbers or these politicians have no right to tell us how to make our guns. Then we go to the following bills are being heard during the meeting. The Judiciary Committee should support the following bills by voting ought to pass. LD 009 HP 656 creates an application process to restore the Second Amendment rights to individuals previously convicted of non-violent felonies. This means that if you committed tax evasion, it should not deny you a right to own a firearm, because tax evasion is not a violent crime. It's not like the federal government has screwed people out of money before. If anybody's committed so much in tax evasion is our federal government and our politicians. So, to me, tax evasion should not even be a felony. It should be a misdemeanor, if anything. But regardless, it should be a non-violent felony, and therefore it should not deny you your right to keep and bear arms, because it is a harmless felony. Then we go to LD 1062 HP 691, eliminates the requirement for background checks to be conducted during the private sale of firearms. In other words, I believe, and everybody else believes, that the private background check should be between the buyer and the seller, and that the ATF doesn't need to know about it, and it's because it's none of their business. In fact, we all know that the ATF should be abolished altogether, but that's a different story. But nevertheless, this should eliminate the requirement for a background check. I believe that the private seller can write a bill of sale and write down the person's driver's license just in case something bad happens. But it's privately confidential between the buyer and the seller, and that's the way it should be. It should be confidential. But it's always recommended to have a bill of sale when you sell your gun privately, so that way you no longer be responsible if the person does commit a crime. Not that the person will or will not, but to protect yourself, it's always good to have a bill of sale. So, again, that I support LD 1062 HP 691, and so should everybody from the state of Maine. Then we go to LD 1174 HP 779, allows gun shops to take possession of a firearm owned by a veteran of the United States Armed Forces or first responder if the gun shop enters into a firearm hold agreement with the owner, keeps the firearm separate from the gun shop inventory, and contacts the owner every 6 months. Okay, that's something you can decide yourself. To me, I don't know if this is good or bad, but you be the judge of it. I'm only going to read this off to you, so you decide. Then we go to LD 1104 HP 723, provides immunity to the holder of a firearm pursuant to the firearm hold agreement, who returns the firearm to the firearm owner at the termination of the agreement unless the conduct of the holder is otherwise unlawfully under this bill. A firearm hold agreement is defined as a written oral agreement between the firearm owner and the other person, which the person at the owner's request takes physical possession of the firearm lawfully possessed by the owner and holds the firearm and agreed upon for a period of time. It says, these bills are being heard by the Judiciary tomorrow, which is May 7th. Using the form above sends a message to your legislators. Tell them to uphold the Second Amendment during tomorrow's work session for May 7th. So there you have it. So to the people of Maine, make sure that you call your legislators. Whatever bill you feel that is either going to benefit your Second Amendment rights, if it benefits your Second Amendment rights, tell them to support it. And if it affects your Second Amendment rights, tell them to vote against it. You have the power to do something about it. And again, that is why politicians get away with what they get away with, because people don't do their part. So it's up to you to make that phone call. If your Second Amendment rights are important to you, what if you live in a blue state or red state, you got to call your legislators. And the more you call them, and the more that you tell them that if you violate my Second Amendment rights, I'll make sure you get voted out of office. That will capture their attention. So whether they listen or they don't listen, what matters, and I've said it repeatedly, what matters is your voice is heard. You simply got to do your part. And I also encourage all of you out there to keep on writing letters to Attorney General Pam Bondi and tell her that it's time we pull the plug on the ATF. We encourage you to write a letter to President Trump and tell him to pull the plug on the ATF. Because the moment we pull the plug off the ATF, the moment we put them out of business, because we all know possibly in the future we will have a Democrat president. And if we do, they won't have an ATF to them to do their dirty laundry. So it's important we get rid of the ATF once and for all. But if for the time being we keep them in check, that will be great. But we got to eliminate the ATF altogether. So call your congressman, call your senator, whether if they're pro-gun or not, you call them up and tell them to demand to abolish the ATF. And then tell your congressman or your congresswoman or your senator, tell them to tell Pam Bondi to get rid of the ATF once and for all. Because as long as the ATF exists, we're not going to get anywhere. And they will continue to put oppression on our rights. They will continue to do every dirty deed as possible. Because, again, the ATF is a corrupt law enforcement agency. In fact, they're not even a law enforcement agency. They're corrupt bureaucrats. And I want to say, first of all, on first hand, I strongly support our local law enforcement. Our law enforcement officers, they put themselves on the line every day, 24 hours around the clock. Some come home, some do not. So I strongly salute and support our law enforcement officers as well as our military veterans. They are the bread and butter of this American flag. Especially our elected sheriffs. Our elected sheriffs have raised their right hand to swear and to protect and defend our constitutional rights, to protect our Second Amendment rights against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And there are sheriffs out there who take their oath seriously. But then on the other hand, you also have sheriffs who have violated their oath. There's good and bad in everybody, no matter what profession you do. There are good police officers or bad police officers. There's good lawyers, there's bad lawyers. There's good doctors and there's bad doctors. There's good and bad in everybody. But always acknowledge the good when you notice the good they're doing. And there are many elected sheriffs who strongly support our Second Amendment rights, because it's only common sense that law enforcement officers know when law-abiding citizens use a firearm to stop a bad guy, it's one less bad person that our law enforcement officers have to deal with on the street. And that is why law enforcement officers are, in reality, are strongly supportive of law-abiding citizens owning firearms, because they know they're not the problem. The real problem is the criminals. So it's important, wherever you live in your community, get to know your law enforcement officers, let them know you, you know them, and when they know you, they know that you're not a threat to them. It doesn't hurt to say hi to them, doesn't hurt to talk to them or shake their hand and thank them for what they do, because the more you know them and the more they know you, you will build a better relationship. It works with me. I'm very fortunate that my local sheriff in Bighorn County, Sheriff Ken Blackburn, who is not only a true American patriot, but he takes his oath seriously. He is a true staunch defender of the Second Amendment, and Level is very blessed to have him as our elected sheriff in Bighorn County. So Ken Blackburn, salute to you. Well, that is it for today for YO28 Arsenal Roundup News. If you have any type of legislation in your state that will either violate your Second Amendment rights or benefit your Second Amendment rights, please feel free to send me an email at rjespinoza, that's ESPINOZA, roundupnews@gmail.com. Tell me what state you're from. Tell me what the bill is about. Will it benefit your Second Amendment rights or will it violate your Second Amendment rights? Tell me the name of the person sponsoring the bill. Tell me who the people who are for it or against it, or whatever the case may be. Give me as much information as possible, and I will see to broadcast it in my next podcast. Help me help you get the word out. Help me help you defend your Second Amendment rights. Well, again, that is it for today for YO2A Arsenal Roundup News. This is Richard Espinoza reminding you, be armed, be vigilant, carry a firearm with you and whatever you can. Protect your home, protect your loved ones, because that's what the Second Amendment is all about. It's not just about guns, it's about freedom. And you have the freedom to protect your loved ones, your personal property, and everything you worked hard for. It is a God-given right, and it was well written by our founding fathers. Have a great day.